This is a pretty prickly topic, so we'll see what you think. This comes from Mike Martin, and this is, again, why the objection he has to Catholicism. He says, the Pope and his minions who covered up the child abusers, the Vicar of Christ, my butt. You know, I'm sympathetic to that. I mean, you hear about the abuse taking place in the church, and if your response is something other than disgust and even anger, I'd be worried. So it's a fair, I think, a fair point.
So I think it's certainly fair if you mean the vicar, he's acting like the Vicar of Christ, my butt. Well, okay, that's certainly fair, because he's not acting like the Vicar of Christ if he's covering up child abuse and not dealing with it effectively. But is that a disproof that he is the Vicar of Christ? He may not be acting like the Vicar of Christ, but in a particular case, and it doesn't have to be child abuse. It could be all kinds of things. Does it mean he's not the Vicar of Christ? Well, in this we have a helpful example in Scripture, which is Peter himself, because Peter, even though he was the Vicar of Christ, he denied Christ. And that means he denied being a Christian. He said, "I'm not a Christian." That was an act of apostasy. And furthermore, in Mark's gospel, it says that Peter cursed, that he began to curse. And the probable meaning of that, or at least what has struck many New Testament scholars as the probable meaning of that, I mean, today we think of cursing as saying bad words. You know, that's where the term cussing comes from. It's an abbreviation of cursing. And we think of cursing as just saying offensive words. That's not what it meant in the ancient world. In the ancient world, if you were cursing, what that meant was you were saying things that would bring down bad stuff on someone. So if you said, Matt Fradd, I hope God causes you to break your leg, that would be a curse. Or if I said, Matt Fradd, may God break your leg, that would be a curse. Cursing involved, and by the way, there's an episode of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World on curses, if you want to find out more about them. At some point, we'll do blessings to balance that. But right now, there's one on curses. And cursing was wishing harm on someone, and coupled in the ancient world with a belief that God or the gods would bring about the harm that you are wishing someone. And so the question is, if Peter starts to curse, and he's trying, who is he cursing? Well, he's trying to please the servants of the high priest. He's not cursing them. He's trying to keep them from spotting him as or trying to deflect them from what they have spotted, which is that he's a follower of Jesus. So who's he going to be cursing in this context of trying to protect himself from the wrath of the high priest and his household? He's going to be cursing Jesus.
Wow.
And so here you have the Vicar of Christ not only denying that he's a Christian, but cursing Jesus publicly in front of these people. Okay, easy to say, Peter is acting like the Vicar of Christ, your butt. He's not. But nevertheless, that's who he is. And so this drives us to a recognition of the profound difference between what the office holder, who has an office, and whether he is acting in keeping with that office. Just like with the high priest Caiaphas, we mentioned from John 11. He was the high priest, and he did prophecy about the death of Jesus because he was high priest, even though he was in the midst of plotting the death of the Jewish Messiah. He was still the high priest, and he still prophesied without even realizing it. So in both of these cases, in Peter and Caiaphas's case, we see that they can be personally profoundly sinful and nevertheless have an office that was instituted by God.
If you like that clip, be sure to like and subscribe. Cheers.